What's going on? What's new? How is time and amazing. Amazing. Sorry. Give me a second. Give me a second. That's too funny. Didn't expect that to happen. Glad none of my producers were over here to be hit by a falling pair of scissors, as it were. Alright, I'm back. Wow. Alright. Got a little something going there. So I made Mediterranean bowl. Super good, super delicious. Wonderful times. How goes it? You know? What's shaking? What's going on? How are you? How is life as it plays out? Went by my favorite coffee shop to go with Bevco. Gotta love those guys. Picked up some coffee, got some breakfast, add a little extra protein to it. It's a Mediterranean bowl, so it's got couscous, it's got feta, olives, spinach, red peppers, tomatoes, some vinaigrette, a cucumber, and then I added some, kind of like an omelet with sardines actually, and garlic sauce. So I'm getting a lot of protein in this one. But yeah, it is a nice fall day. It's about 67, I think, is when I looked at the thing today. So I feel good. I feel like I can live with the windows open. No AC for a little while. So a friend of mine, who's Filipina, got me into the idea of grilling or roasting sardines. And I've really started to like that a lot. It's a really good sense of protein source. So yeah. So Galeras, as you come in, because you do, how is everybody? I hope you're well. I've had a pretty good week. I've been contemplating this conversation I've had with one of my best friends about Afrofuturism and how to kind of more incorporate it into what I do. For those who don't realize what Afrofuturism is, it's kind of this concept of, in sci-fi and future storytelling, where everyone says, where black people from all over the diaspora are in the future. Advancements, the vibes, etc. Some people probably aren't going to understand the purpose of it, but the concept behind it on a very simple level is, when you look at a lot of science fiction and even future storytelling, there's not a lot of diversity in it. And I realize for some people that's not as important, but for me it's important. For a lot of other people it's important. So hear me out. There's something to be said about you have kind of a feeling of sorts when it comes to working hard and planning forward, when you feel like you exist in the future. If you don't feel like you exist in the future, there's no reason to work hard. There's no reason to do anything, essentially. Like I keep hearing for decades now, I keep hearing lots and lots of people who are older saying there's not going to be any social security, there's not going to be any social security, all this stuff. And I was like, well, that's not really encouraging people to work and like contribute. I remember being like a really young guy in the year, I don't remember, and I just remember like they constantly told us, they were like, there's not going to be any social security, all this money you see coming out of your checks, the $300-400 a month on the low end coming out of your checks like that, that's essentially going nowhere. it will not it will not be here when you need it, when you're an old person. It will not be here. They're gonna spend all of it. All of it'll be gone. You're wasting your time. And it didn't make me want to work very hard, I gotta be honest. Not legally. And I think in a lot of ways, like, that's super relatable for a lot of people. Like you do need to see yourself like forward in the world in order to really like dream beyond just where's the Diddy party? I have no idea. Why? Where the invite say it was? Uh, yeah, you just need. I don't know. It's there's something to be said about like the idea behind it. That's like just madness. You're not gonna get people to do much if they don't see themselves in a forward progression. Let's see. Someone Supports the Homeless by Cheryl Lockett Alexander. I'm very happy about that. Good for them. I have a homeless person story actually. So my wife and I were going to see Beetlejuice, and we're on the metro. I'm about to get on a train, and this guy walks up to me, and he is essentially he's a homeless guy. He's got his arm pulled into his shirt, and a little t-shirt, and some sandals, and some pants. And he says, "I'm really cold. Can I have your hoodie?" And it's like this old promotional hoodie I have that I made like 10, 15 years ago. It says like the old podcast logo on it. It's like a thin hoodie too. Like a fall hoodie. Not really a winter hoodie. And I think about it for half a second. And I go, "There's nothing in the pockets." And I go, "Yeah, sure." So I give it to him. He puts it on. He's got almost tears in his eyes. He says, "I'm really sorry." And I was like, "You're cold. I get it." And it was just kind of one of those things where he needed it and I didn't. So why not? It's like a $20 hoodie. So I felt bad for him. I really did. It's kind of one of those sad moments. But it made me think of this book that I was reading, that I read earlier in the year, called The Fuck Up by Arthur Nessesson. It's essentially about this guy who just can't help but kind of ruin his life in the pursuit of trying to be famous or recognized or wealthy. And he's just progressively kind of ruining things because he's kind of just a dishonest guy. He's a dishonest guy. He's kind of a hustler. He's got this whole kind of vibe to him where he can't help but like ruin relationships because he can't be honest with people. His best friend dies, leaves him a bunch of priceless books, all these things, and he just can't get his life together. And eventually, toward the end, he's like a homeless guy. He's like losing his mind. It all kind of works out in the end of the book, but through reading it, I found a new compassion for homeless people. And I've always been one of those people who's given like change. If I had a couple extra bucks, I'd give it to somebody if they asked me for it. That's just kind of how I was brought up to be. Like, you help the people who need help around you. And maybe one day they'll help you out, maybe they won't, but they're alive. They're alive and they're able to eat or drink or whatever for the moments that you've given them money. And I just think that's kind of important. There's two old homeless men who live outside of this coffee shop. And the community buys them breakfast, sometimes and buys them coffee, and all these things. They're very old black men. And they seem to have a little bit of a mental problem, essentially. And you just kind of you gotta be nice to people. I mean, I don't know how to teach people how to be compassionate. I think a lot of the importance of trying to find a way to be a good person is really hard. But like, the important parts of it is, if you see someone who's suffering and you don't feel at least bad for them, like, where are we then as a society? Like, you can't appreciate art, you can't appreciate music, you can't appreciate movies, you can't appreciate anything if your only feeling you have when you see people who are doing worse than you is essentially to kind of sneer and scoff and whatnot. I think in the last probably about the last decade or so, we've made like this celebrity of very, very wealthy people who don't do anything. And it's not a new concept. Like, we've been doing this for a long time. But I don't think we've ever really celebrated people on such a grand stage until recently, which I think is difficult. Because if all we ever celebrate is people, if all we ever celebrate is people who are doing extremely well for themselves, then nothing else really matters, and like that's a problem. Like, we need that. Side note: this is a shirt I designed a very long time ago during the pandemic. It's my Black Lives Matter shirt. If anybody's asking, anybody wants to know, I designed it on the idea that we needed to get away from like a very like Fox News Eurocentric idea of beauty, because like it's weird where, like, no offense to like Holly Berry and people like that, it's always weird that like we feel bad when someone who we consider to be very attractive has something bad happen to them. When it's just a person, it's like pulling teeth for people to give a damn, and that's kind of sad. All right, SideQuest Sam, how's it going, man? What's up? Hi there, good to see you again. Likewise. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. I just feel that we need to figure out a way to celebrate everything that's going on in the world and all the people. And I realize that's a lot to ask of some people, but like we do all these things in weird holidays that we don't know any history about because it's commercialized. So it's not really that ridiculous to learn how to say Happy Friday to someone in their native tongue. Or just, you don't even have to be able to speak it, but to understand people and their backgrounds and where they come from. Like, there's so many people I knew growing up who were from Appalachia. And it was just such a very different culture to what I grew up in as far as the Caribbean goes. That it was just interesting, you know? It was just interesting. And that is a culture. Like it's a full on culture. Those people have a lot going on. They have ways of survival, they have music. Tom, don't do that. Hey. Producer Tom. Hey, come here. Don't do that. Don't break into the kitchen. Cats, man. He's doing well, by the way. He's off his meds. He got 3 teeth extracted. It was not nearly as brutal for him or for me or my wife, so that's good. But he's happy. He's wandering around, being his normal bad self now. And it's just little stuff like that, you know? I mean, we see a dog wandering around after a hurricane looking skinny and sad. And like the whole world goes, ah. But then you see people in the same thing without the dog in the same situation and kind of just scroll right past it. Like we don't see that. It's kind of sad. I think the weird part about a lot of things is we have to kind of figure out how to just start to give a shit about stuff again. It's so easy not to give a shit. I mean, I'm famously good at it on some occasions. And I'm trying to get better about it, honestly. I think there's certain levels of it that you have to do, and that's just like survival instinct. Particularly being an artist, you do have to kind of develop tough skin because you will hear an insane amount of negativity, like just directed at you when you just do these minuscule things. Compared to somebody else's life. Compared to your life, these are huge events. But it's just strange. It's so strange to see how people don't really get that. I've been telling people for years, like, you go to shows, you're selling your wares, most artists are pretty shy when it comes to actually selling art. I don't know many artists that are particularly great at it. I know people who are overly aggressive about it. I know people who are super timid at it. I know a slight amount who are charismatic about it. My top 5 charismatic artists: myself, Laura Zombie, Carmen Rosette, Swoon, Mascaraz. These are all like these really amazing, technically gifted artists. Yes, I put myself on that list. but they know how to communicate with a crowd. Like, I think one of the things I learned years ago from another artist was you got to come up with like a persona. If you are not good at this, come up with a persona of someone who is. Name them, sketch them out if you need to. Come up with something that they always do or wear or whatever, and then wear that to shows. If it's a hat, if it's sunglasses, if it's a shirt, if it's a way they wear their shirt, whatever works. I had one friend in art school who used to wear these penny loafers, and she spray painted them gold, and she wore them to every show. These were very blinding shoes, to say the least. But she said they were her magic shoes. She wore them every show. They reminded me of like women's video game armor. You guys better not be fighting. The cats, not you. I mean, you two probably don't fight, but they remind me of like kind of like the medieval video game lady armor. It's basically like a bikini kind of thing. It looks good, but it doesn't look like it has like an actual function. The gold shoes kind of looked like that. Like they looked cool, but they also looked kind of uncomfortable. But when that was going on, and she had those shoes on, I think her name was Catherine. She could answer any question. She could go on any show or radio or anything. Soft clouds. Oh, I found your live again. Nice. Thank you. And yeah, it was just cool. Like it was interesting to see the transformation. She was this very like whispery, soft girl who like half the time you weren't really sure whether you were actually even saying her name properly. She was the type of person who wouldn't correct you if you said her name wrong. And it was like I want to say it was like a Polish last name, so it was kind of a complicated last name to an extent. At least for me. And she was a super shy girl. She put on gold shoes. Bam. Could nothing hold her back. Sold paintings left and right, got scholarships, did all types of stuff. She was amazing. But as standing as a rail, looked like a blonde olive oil from Popeye with glasses on. But she was breathtaking with those shoes on. And it was because she had this confidence that she exuded that was so palpable that she went from the girl with the painting in the corner to I have to see this painting in the corner. This really cool artist told me about it. I think a lot of times that works better than kind of the social lubricants that artists use. A lot of artists are famously known for drug and alcohol abuse. It gets you through a lot of things. But they're kind of better ways. They're definitely better ways to get about it. So my food set is a Mediterranean bowl. So it's got feta, bell peppers, tomatoes, spinach, olives. I put some eggs in there. It's got a little vinaigrette there. It's a lot of protein, some hummus. There's a lot of protein. For those who don't know, I'm diabetic, so I need a lot of protein when I eat to help me kind of keep my blood sugar at a regular level. I have a My blood sugar has a tendency to kind of go really high and sometimes really low. Thankfully, I haven't had to go to the hospital for it for a super long time, but apparently diabetes is like a really common problem that a lot of artists that I've run into have. I went to a gallery crawl about 3 weeks ago, the first of the month. I met all these amazing artists who do all this incredible work, very shy people, and they kept telling me about how they saw my sensor. I wear my sensor sometimes. They kept telling me about how, they were diabetic. And it started up a whole thing. Like, you have to. I think if you're in search of trying to find, like, clients as an artist, selling something that you created from your head that didn't exist beforehand, it's important to realize, like, you might need to kind of expose yourself a little bit. Let people know who you are, you know? It doesn't have to be an illness, but it could be, where you grew up, what you find important. There was this author I remember reading in college called Faulkner. And Faulkner lived in the South, but he hated the South. But his driving force to continuously write was that he lived in the South. So although he was there and he could have just moved, he didn't, because he was pointing out all the things he didn't want to happen. Primarily, it was he didn't like the racism and the poverty, and so, it was this thing. There's Kurt Vonnegut. Kurt Vonnegut was this really funny writer who had served in World War II, hated it, and then continued to write about it up into somewhat fictional, up until he died, honestly. It was his driving thing. I've been rereading about four books this year. I've got 2 in rotation right now. More like 3, really. Well, no, that's not true. There's 4. There's the Stars book. There's the first Dune book, which I go on and off and on to. Thank you, Mr. Roosevelt. And then the last. I'm trying to think what the 4th one is. There's a 4th book. Dune, Stars. Oh, this other one about this artist who's she's this lesbian who moves from Brooklyn to California to study under this artist. And it's like her first moment's coming out, but she has like this career that she wants to have, but she feels like it's easier for her to be honest with herself and with other people if she tells them who she is. This vulnerability. And I really love that. I think a lot of times, like, in my life, I have found that reading a lot of books has helped me with my creativity, because I am a daydreamer, as some of you may have guessed, as I am often off tangent. Let's see, side quest. I'm going to the U.S., California. Never been. Any advice? We're going to California, Sam. Side quest, Sam. Where in California are you going? Because it's such a big state. The weather is different depending on where you go. With Southern California, Think like perpetual spring, summer, with Northern California. Just be prepared for it to be kind of cloudy and rainy sometimes. Producer Mochi is zooming and doing laps right now. So you can see me kind of look off to the side. Let me see. Sam says Yosemite, Disney. Um, I don't know. I've never been to that part of California before. I've been to California. I've been more to Southern California, and I've been to Oregon. Um, I think the thing people typically say about Disney is like just realize Disney is like crazy expensive, and it might be easier sometimes to find food outside of Disney. I always felt bad because like I went to Disney World a very long time ago in Florida. It was interesting, but I can't say I loved it. What? What do you want? What do you want, little beans? You coming up? You gonna join the show? Cause some trouble? Moch? Come here. Come here. Come here. Just gonna be like hard no me on the stream. I know what you gotta do. You're just gonna run in and butthole the show. That's what you do. Because you're insane. Nope, they're gone. Must be chasing like a moth or something. Let me see. Sutko Sam says, I assume it's a blue state, so it's a foreigner. So a foreigner is a safe-ish. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I think I want to say California is not. I mean, there's definitely parts of California, like Orange County and stuff, that are a little bougie and red. Most of America, honestly, is pretty welcoming. 1 second, I'm gonna break up the fight. Get out of here, buddy. Different direction. Go ahead. You know what? Come here. So that everybody sees all the little thing that makes all this noise. This is Moch. Hello. And chill out. And find peace. Look that way. There you go. Right, get out of here. Get out of here, you creep. I think most of America is actually pretty welcoming to foreigners. Like, I myself was a foreigner at one point in time. Yeah. I mean, most places are just happy to see people. They're super welcoming. You don't really see as much division. I think the problem you run across a lot of times in media outlets is they only show the negative aspects of America. And I think for the most part, like a lot of people in America are super welcoming to just everyone. They love food, they love language, they love culture, they love music, they love all these things. Love the way people dress, they love all that. There's like a really small subsect of people who don't have any common sense and act like jackasses. And we don't like them either. To be clear. Anybody who's trying to claim, yeah, we'll talk about that. Anybody trying to claim something insanely racist or fucked up, like the whole Haitians in Ohio or snatching people's pets and eating whatever, are just shitty people. They're by far not the majority of the people that you will typically meet. The average person is just nice. You know, they don't have this animosity to the idea that I don't understand something, so I have to be belligerent. But that goes into the whole art school, the whole art show thing. Like, there's a certain bit of armor you put on to do a show, but the truth is, like, you're not really gonna use it that much. You might use it once. You're not gonna run into like a billion people or a town of people who act that way. And if you did, like, you'd know you were going into that town beforehand. My typical response as a person, as a Afro-Latino West Indian who lives in America, who's originally from the Caribbean and South America, would say if you go to a place and the entire town is covered in huge American flags, that might be something to look out for. Guys, stop fighting. Get out of here. Get out of here. I'm gonna separate you guys. I'm gonna put you in different rooms if you keep this up. For the most part, most people are just good. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have that. I've never run across, of all the places that I've traveled in my life, I have never run across any place that spends most of their time trying to gatekeep and hate other people that is doing well, is the best thing I can say. I've never been to any place that has been a destination place that people want to go that is hateful. Not really. Not as a town. Not as a city. Not as a state. Like, it's just, there is no equivalent of, like, not a real equivalent of, like, an ethno-state, so to speak. That's relief. Thanks, dude. No problem, Sam. I hate when people feel like they're going to have something bad is going to happen to them because they're just existing around other people. Like, it's a fear. It's a rational fear because things happen. Hey! Stop it! Come here. So this is my boy. For those who don't know, this is Tom. He's a little baddie. He's had his little arm shaved because he had an IV when he got his teeth fixed. But he's been out of it for a while, and recently he's been coming back and forth with his lucidity, and the little one Mochi has been bullying him while he was kind of not feeling well, and now he's feeling better, and he's trying to basically whoop ass to catch up on lost time. And we're trying to get them to stop fighting. But they're in this little mood right now. Guys, stop it. Hey, what'd I say? Cut it out. I can see this show's going to have to end abruptly. Yeah. No, in my life I've realized that, like, you don't run across people who... The states that I have seen in America that still have a lot of openly racist, sexist, xenophobic problems are not states comparatively that do well education-wise, that do well financial-wise, that do these things. You can't hold a people down while lifting yourself up. Like, the action doesn't work. It's kind of like being in, like, a pool and drowning, and if someone comes by, you grab them and push off of them and try and pull yourself out of the water. As they drown, so do you. If that makes any sense. I think it makes sense, but maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Either way, Galeras, you're amazing. I love you. I will... Thank you, Sam. So I love the analogy. Ha ha ha. Yeah. I hope you're well. I finished my food. It's pretty much the end of the show. But yeah. I hope you're well. I hope everything goes. All the plans you hope to do throughout the week do really well. And they're fighting. Alright, so I'm out. I love you, Galeras. Have a great one. See you next week. Stay around.